Everybody ready to go? All right, Sheriff, whenever you're ready.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today. Today we want to announce our cold case unit detectives have made an arrest for a suspect for a murder that occurred in Reedley over 5 years ago. Detectives with the Fresno County Sheriff's Office cold case unit have arrested 29-year-old Angel Romero of Fresno for murder. He has been booked into the Fresno County Jail. Around 7:30 p.m. on March 23, 2019, deputies found 75-year-old Andres Cardenas of Dinuba shot and killed. He was discovered in a plum orchard outside of Reedley near East Springfield and Alta Avenues. Cardenas had served as a farm worker for more than 20 years, and at the time of his death, he was helping perform small jobs on his family's ranch, which was owned by his son. It should be noted that Mr. Cardenas was not involved in any sort of criminal activity or anything that would have put his life in danger, or any lifestyle choice that would have caused him to be victimized. Since the crime occurred, detectives pursued leads to identify a possible suspect. Recently, investigators in our cold case unit developed new information and evidence that pointed to Angel Romero as the shooter. Our detectives then secured an arrest warrant, and on July 21st, 2024, detectives with the Sheriff's Office newly formed Violent Criminal Apprehension Team, along with assistance from our cold case unit and our homicide detectives, located Romero in Fresno and arrested him. Detectives learned then 24-year-old Romero shot Andres Cardenas in the orchard during a robbery attempt. Key points of this case is that the Fresno County Sheriff's Office never gives up on these cases or the victims. We take it personally to look into and make sure that if there are any investigatable leads or anything that we can do to solve these cold cases, that we will make sure that no stone is left unturned and we do what is necessary to bring justice for the victims in these cases. To put this into perspective, we're looking back as far as 1970 to look at cold case homicides, to find out if there's a case that we can work, bring justice to the family, and ensure that the suspects are held accountable for these crimes. I want to mention that what we are currently looking at several handfuls of cases over the last 10 years that are cold cases that are being worked, investigated, and reviewed by our cold case unit and our violent criminal apprehension team. Also want to mention in this case that our Fresno Sheriff's Office Forensic Lab processed and located some very key pieces of evidence that helped lead to the arrest in this case. Now I'd like to turn it over to Deborah Miller, Senior Homicide District Attorney from the Fresno County District Attorney's Office.
Good afternoon. I am Deborah Miller, Chief Deputy District Attorney for Homicide at the Fresno County DA's Office. We have filed charges against Angel Romero based on the murder of Mr. Cardenas. We have filed first-degree murder charges along with a gun enhancement, which adds 25 years to life to his exposure. Mr. Romero also has a prior strike offense. At this time, he's being held at the Fresno County Jail at $1,575,000 bail, and his arraignment date has been continued until August 7th.
Thank you, Deborah. And I also want to note that our cold case unit at the Fresno County Sheriff's Office actually consists of former Fresno County Sheriff homicide detectives who are working in that unit, along with our violent criminal apprehension team, and also coordinating with our current homicide detectives when they're conducting these investigations. And like I said, they're conducting reviews of cases. If there's somebody out there in the public, you probably know who you are. If you have information or you've come into some information that could help us solve one of these cold cases, You could be the missing link. It's just that little bit of information, that statement regarding, maybe it's like somebody's whereabouts, maybe it's they gave an alibi at the time of the crime, and maybe that wasn't accurate, and maybe you have some information that could help bring justice to some of these victims' families. I would greatly appreciate it if you would contact the Fresno County Sheriff's Office Homicide Unit. You can do that by contacting our dispatch center at 559-600-3111. You can be the missing link that could help bring justice and help us solve the case, just like we solved this case, which is over 5 years old.
I know you probably can't go into specifics, but was it a tip like that that kind of helped get the ball rolling on getting something that had been kind of dead in the water?
I can't give you the specifics on it, but I can tell you that in this case, as people's life circumstances and things change, lifestyles change, people come forward, people change their ways, and we were able to obtain some information which helped us get this cold case going and which led to the arrest of Angel Romero in this case.
Have you spoken to the victim's family at all?
I have not, but I know that our detectives have been in contact with family members of the victim, and I know this is going to be a huge deal for them because it seemed like all was lost. That was March of 2019. Here we are, July of 2024, and we have an arrest. We have a case filed. He's heading to arraignment. His bail's over $1.5 million.
And what do you have to say to families of people who have a cold case still open? Like, does this give them hope?
I would say to the families that, are out there, that, family members and friends are victims of a homicide and it's one of our cold cases, never give up, because we are never going to give up. We're evaluating these cases, we're looking for leads, we're constantly getting phone calls. We have our retired homicide detectives that are working in our cold case unit, looking to interview people, to talk to people, to get new information. We're looking at DNA. We're looking at every avenue that you can think of in order to solve these cold case homicides, because murder is the worst crime, and we are committed to doing everything we can to bring people to justice and to give closure to these victims and their families. Like I said, even if it's going back to as far as 1970, going back much farther, we also have to look at, whether suspects would still be alive that committed these crimes, but we are taking a serious look at numerous cases and are putting a lot of effort and energy into the investigations.
And seeing as the victim's background, did this come across as just a random act of violence?
This came across as, it was an attempt robbery, and it went bad, and the victim was shot and killed by Angel Romero, and he was left to die in that plum orchard. And here we are, over 5 years later, and Mr. Romero is now in custody at the Fresno County Jail facing murder charges.
And can you talk about what the ViCAT team is and why you guys created it?
So ViCAT is something, we actually had a team that identified as ViCAT back in the 90s at the Fresno County Sheriff's Office. And so we brought that team back. We've kind of changed some of the things they do, but for the most part, they are out there looking at some of these cold cases. They're looking at a lot of felony assaults. They're looking at crimes of attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, a lot of different violent felonies that our homicide detectives didn't always have the time to follow up on, and now they do. They're a team of 5 deputy sheriffs, and they're out there, they're following up on these cases, and we have seen tremendous results in just the few months that this team has been in place, with arrests, filings, and cases that have been made, even on cases that are several years old and things of that nature. But it has really taken it to the next level as far as making cases. Because homicide detectives focus on the murders, and they do get some of these other cases assigned to them, but now with ViCAT, they're out there actively working these other cases, making arrests, and like I said, getting cases filed in the courts.
And although it may not have had an effect on this case, does the new technology that investigators have at their hands help with reviving and solving these cold cases?
Absolutely. You have a lot of technology out there. a lot of different things that we can pursue when it comes to analysis and evidence and things like that. So it is a game changer. You know, we've seen cases like the Golden State Killer and other cases where technology and DNA has really made a difference and a game changer. And those are things that we're probably gonna be looking at with some of our cold cases, because when you look back to 1970s and the 1980s, this technology wasn't around then, but we have the evidence and the technology is here now. So it's gonna give us the opportunity and hopefully open some doors to identify some suspects and make some arrests.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.